Hey, what are we talking about? February! It's already almost February of 2023. Is that exciting and slightly terrifying to anyone else? Games on crowdfunding, though. That's what we're talking about today. The top ones that are going to be coming to crowdfunding, and it's a little bit spread out, so your wallet may save you or thank you later. But first up, Andromeda's Edge! If you're, 16 hours or so behind the rest of the world, you'll be able to get it on that day. But it's January 31. I know, January 31. Andromeda's Edge is still by far and away the most anticipated of February, even over everything else. I hate saying that, but it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. So check that one out when it launches tomorrow. I'm trying to time this between filming and, So check it out when it launches. It'll launch, it'll raise money, and it'll have a ton over on GameFound, and I'll cover it, everything else you need to know. But, let's go into what's actually launching in February. This little dandy right here next to me, this is probably the most anticipated game out there, I would argue, from OOMM, the sequel in the lines of things like Mythwind, from their previous situation and development line of their games. And so this is going to be an interesting test of the market. Cooperative survival exploration crafting game in a persistent open world, right? Like, those are some big terms that you throw around. And it takes the Mythwind and it makes it more cooperative-y, video game RPG-esque, if you will. Less worker placement, more legacy campaign, and, well, if you prefer that, solo as well, because they make it very clear you can solo it or do it as a cooperative game. Now, the crafting, the building, the complexity that comes with that, how are you combining items to make new items as you evolve the technology tree, starting out in a Stone Age type of setting. Exploration and discovery is going to be unique with each play session. They're going to be drop in, drop out availability. So, some of the biggest criticisms I have of games like this, one of my favorites sitting up on the shelf right behind me, Madara, or Adventure Tactics, I gotta have a certain number of these people. I gotta have 3, I gotta have 4 every single time. And that wears on you after a while. Like, I love me some Aeon Trespass Odyssey, but having to control 4 characters every single time, every single session, all the time, is burdensome at times. They say, though, unlike other legacy games, you're not discarding, you're not removing things permanently, you're altering them. So you could even pass the game on to a completely different game group and they could utilize the same things that are already there. I'm really intrigued by the mysteries of a game like this, right? It reminds me more of a game along the lines of Lands of Galzir. It gives me very much those stylish vibes, which I've previously covered. My only concern is that, again, I like to have something more concrete. Mythwind and Lands of Galzir were just a little bit too zen for me, a little bit too meta from that larger aspect of things. And so that's my only concern with a game like this, of that epic proportions of definitive waypoints, definitive endpoints, definitive discussions. Like, when you talk Aeon Trespass Odyssey, right? Like, you have cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, cycle 4, cycle 5. Like, there are certain, okay, I'm completing this objective, I have to get through these 5, quests in order to get through cycle 1, right? And there's going to be things that pop up along the way. Now, there are going to be monsters, there are going to be mysteries, there are going to be generations. Each session is a generation. So there's clearly some delineation there and definition, but is it going to be enough for people? That's the big question right now. So that is by far and away number 1. I'll put that out there. I would be interested at the end of the month, looking back, if there's anything that's going to surpass that funding-wise, because I could see that, again, raising 7 digits. And I'm not sure there's a whole lot else on this list that is necessarily going to challenge that right now. Again, there's always a couple that pop up. This one, also from Colossal Games, taken over from Blacklist. This is Street Fighter Champions Edition Legends 5. And this is a completely different take on the Blacklist lineage of combo system you've seen in Street Masters and those ilk. Alter Quest, etc. I wasn't as big a fan in the actuality of Street Masters. I love the idea of that combo deck system, but it was messy. It was just not a good rules work through of things. A lot of questions unanswered, and I hate errata. That was what killed Etherfields and Trudvang for me, for the most part. I know there's good games buried in those, but a lot of the errata making you wonder, not like fun errata like Aeon Trespass Odyssey, where I'm going to roll with it and go with it, and, you know, but like more burdensome, this is bogging the game down and, you know, causing me to be a little bit disinterested. And so this doesn't have anything to do with that, as I take a rabbit trail there for a second, but this is more of a combo driven system, with it reminding me a little bit more of the other namesake Street Fighter the Miniatures game with the pre-painted miniatures. But it's going to be a card-based combo system where your cards have certain icons on them, and you're going to be utilizing them to overlay, to play down. It reminds me more so of the other Blacklist game, and I wonder if there's any lineage there in terms of relationship of the Naruto game that only went to Barnes & Noble, that never made it to retail and sort of lost in the quagmire. I've been looking to pick up a copy of that for like the past 6 or 8 months, and I passed on it, and now I kind of regret it because I do like me some Naruto Boruto, but this uses a similar combo card system. And the interesting thing is you have this grid, this small grid-based system where you are taking on a number of fighters, then you are fighting your enemy, but you also have a rival you're going up against. So it's not just like bad guy minions, it's bad guy minions arch nemesis, which is like pseudo enemy boss, but like side boss, if you will, from an RPG. And so that's the difference when it comes to this. It's going to be a card combo system because you have 4 cards that are powers that you're going to be utilizing, activating based on those other cards that you lay. They're going to overlay and trigger the systems. And this is going to be another test of the market. I think it's going to be interesting because it plays a lot lighter. It's going to be a lot lighter than some of those other aspects, and it's more scenario based. It's more, you know, instead of Street Fighter's the miniature game as a 1 versus 1 skirmish style game, this is more of like, at least, you know, superficially, Cthulhu Death May Die in a scenario light based, you know, crawl-esque game that's going to be easy to hit the table, quick to hit the table, quick rules overhead. The rule book is relatively straightforward and short, and it allows you just to actually play it in the first place. And so that's going to be the big appeal. It's just whether or not Street Fighter has quite the street cred. Street cred, see what I did there? Dad joke, I didn't even get that one until it came out of my mouth. That it used to. And that's the big unknown of things. And so I just can't speak to that because I don't know where other people's heads are at anymore nowadays. I'm, you know, nostalgia, right? Like, this was one of the first video games I ever played on any, like, upgraded system. Like, I had this for SNES. So anyway, that's number 2. Number 3, I meant to reach out to these guys, but if you remember their previous game, this one is going to look very familiar. This is Founders. Founders from This Way! Games. The previous game was ICE, I-C-E, with like the spaces in it that kind of made it look weird. Founders is doing the same thing, but this is more strategic and tile laying, team-based tile laying. I didn't like the idea of ICE previously because it was more worker placement, like digging down through the layers. I thought it was clever. I thought it was overpriced though. I thought it was over deluxified and a little bit more of a price point. I don't want to pay for posters and some of the art prints that they were like throwing in at the sort of higher level that you really wanted to get in the first place. And I feel weird when non-gameplay stuff is lumped in there. But this looks very much more of my style of things. You're in a hidden alliance with up to 2 other players that you don't know in this more cooperative sense. Now, I believe that the plan is still for this one to launch in the first week of this month. I haven't heard any more recent updates, but I know ICE hasn't been delivered yet, so I'm not sure if that's going to affect the timing or if we're going to see that this month, but it's looking like a really intriguing game, and so I have to have it on my radar from those aspects, even not knowing much else about it. Speaking of things, though, that may or may not come up this month, we're going to talk about it really briefly because they said possibly late February, possibly early March. I'm not sure where it's going to fall yet. My guess is March, but we're going to include it very briefly here. Townsfolk Tussle, the reprint. I'm assuming there's going to be something new, maybe like a mini expansion or something along those lines as well. Sort of been swirling rumors about that. It's the old style cartoony boss battler. And people really liked it. People really just thought it was solid. It streamlined the boss battle challenging of something like KDM without a lot of the upkeep, without a lot of settlement, you know, with just sort of the upgrading and abilities and equipment of the characters in between the battles, rinse and repeat like 4 times, and then you're done. And the aesthetic is cute. I don't know, the old-timey cartoons, again, doesn't do much for me. So aesthetically, not the most appealing for me personally. But you know what? Gameplay always wins out over aesthetics, folks. Always does. And so people like what they see. People were paying way too much in the secondary market. And I really give them a lot of kudos because they said first time around, boom, we're sticking to this. We are not throwing any extra add-ons, any extra stretch goals. We hit all our stretch goals within like a couple days and we're done. We're done. Peace out. If you want it, great. You're going to get it cheaper because it's not going to be at retail, and it's not at retail. So I give them a lot of kudos for people sticking to their guns like that, putting the product out there that they want to see delivered and not getting overly ambitious or, you know, the cart before the horse, if you will. So give them a lot of kudos and a lot of credit for that. Hopefully we will see even more goodness in that sense whenever it does come to crowdfunding. The other one that's coming to crowdfunding, again, I like this because I'm hoping that the price point will be much better. And this is, let's go this side this time. Blueprints of the Mad King Ludwig. Bezier Games. I say that because the last couple Bezier games on crowdfunding have been massively overproduced. Games that are, you know, widely available at retail that didn't really need new additions. Or that, you know, with Castles, they put out an expansion after putting out the big box that people then couldn't fit in the big box, is my understanding. At least limited understanding. And so this is a roll and write of Castles of the Mad King Ludwig. So, I mean, I like the idea of Mad King Ludwig, right? I like the idea of putting those tiles down and piecing them together. But like, my problem with it when I played it was, again, just too much upkeep. Too much analysis paralysis, analysis paralysis. Do I want to, you know what? And so it just didn't do it for me. Good game, solid game. If you like it, if you brought it to a game night, I would totally play it. But this one seems to, in a sense, streamline all of the things I necessarily didn't like about it in the first place, and now giving me all of the things I do like about it at hopefully just a cheaper price. That was my problem with one of my top 20 games of 2022, was it felt like, legitimately so, it could have been a roll and write instead of a super deluxified version for 3, 4, 5 times the cost. Again, say what you will, Foundations of Rome. That not talking about Foundations of Rome, I'm just using that as another example there. I know. Anyway, but that's another one that, you know, okay, what is that going to look like? Does it need to be that sense? Completing rooms, new abilities. I like abilities. Give me abilities of filling out squares and colors. Please don't do what they did with Sagrada Artisans, though. I'm not paying extra for colored pencils, for markers, or for pencil sharpeners. No, thank you. People talk about crowdfunding inflation all the time. Stop paying for those things on crowdfunding and we won't see such a price increase. If people didn't pay for it, they wouldn't put it out there. Side rant there. Public goals, courtyards, moats, castles. It's gonna be an interesting test. And so I have to talk about it, and I like it. Now, the other one that got delayed from Phalanx Games, Huang, Yellow and Yangtze's spiritual successor, literal successor, everything else in between. I have no idea what this is going to look like yet. This one got delayed. It was originally supposed to be in January. It is now towards the end of February. It's going to be over on GameFound. It's going to be on the 28th. I just don't know what to expect with this one whatsoever. I am really intrigued by this. The problem is you go over to the GameFound page still, and there is absolutely no information. Absolutely none. They're like in the forum section, go over and click the page and find out more. There's nothing on the page. Don't click on the link. There's nothing at the time of me filming this. Plastified, standees, wooden. What is it going to look like? I love me some Yellow and Yangtze. I don't need a plastic version of it. It is beautiful the way it is. And my fear is that it's going to be, well, the cost of Yellow and Yangtze in the secondary market right now for a copy of a plastified version that's not nearly as pretty. Now, granted, you know, again, if you could buy Yellow and Yangtze for 50 or 60 bucks, you should do it. Buy it for 100 or 150? No, you spend your money elsewhere, believe me. You go buy, you know, Babylonia, for example. But that's the sort of question that we don't have answers for yet. Now, the interesting thing, the only thing that someone dug up off the page is that there is a Royal Palace Pagoda miniature that's going to come with its own rule set. But that appears to be plastified as well. Plastic. You know, I'm making up my own words. It's my channel. It's my board game channel. I can make up words because it's fun to do. But there's probably not going to be one that's compatible with Yellow and Yangtze. Or is there? I can hope so, but I doubt it. Because the description here on the page doesn't have anything up like that. It just says, the Royal Palace, a large, unique pagoda miniature that comes with its own rule set. I have no idea. I'm going to watch it for that. But I can't imagine, unless it's going to do something completely different, that it's going to replace what I've already got as well. So that's going to be a tough sell from my aspect. If you're not one of those people that has this, though, yeah, I would give this a heavy look-see. We'll talk about this one last. Boardgametables, formerly known, the artist and publisher formerly known as Boardgametables, now ALLPLAY, is putting out a combo of 4 import Japanese games like they've done previously in their several campaigns, and they're hitting the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with these games, and these aren't going to be expansions to other ones, they're going to be new ones. We have 4 games that are going to be Sail, Couture, Chomp, and Mindspace. All a little bit of a different vibe. Sail is navigating through waters and avoiding a kraken with a trick-taking, track movement-based cooperative game. You're going to exchange cards at the beginning of the rounds and then take a series of tricks. Depending on who wins tricks, unique skills can be activated, and the kraken is going to try and screw you up and stop you from using communication or tactics to win those said tricks in the first place. Very interesting, intriguing situation there. Chomp, you're making sure your herbivore dinosaurs aren't getting eaten by the carnivores in a pattern building, drafting, tile placement game. So this one actually seems a little bit up my alley. These first 2 really thematically seem really kind of cool. I'm really excited by this one. Sail is an import, Chomp is not. Couture is also a revision of a previous game called Golden Animals, where you're taking place on the runways of New York, Paris, and Tokyo in simultaneous auction hand management selection. Win cards through the auction as you're drafting them out of each city, and the winning player gets the first pick. Poses, signature walks, and a glam squad? Words that I didn't think I'd be having come out of my mouth right now. The last one, Mindspace, is also a reimplementation of a Japanese game. Colorful emotions, thoughtful, trying to achieve serenity through the use of rolling, drawing, and pattern building with some simultaneous action selection. 12 rounds by completing sections of a brain in polyomino form. There you go. Coloring up to 17 different emotion cards in the whole game in the rounds, as well as 5 dice rolling, determining which colors can be used when you add those shapes to the board. So a little bit of a different roll and write theme. So 3 out of those 4 sound really, really intriguing to me. ALLPLAY. Bring in the play. Love it. So those are the ones that are on my radar right now. Those are the big ones. I'm sure there will be other ones that pop up along the way. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Again, stuff all over the place. I'm sure there's going to be a couple heavy Euros in here. I'm sure there's going to be 1 or 2 other dungeon crawls, a couple other card games. Stuff that's just fun to talk about. Things like Mage Noir that come out of nowhere, right? Things like Hero Realms Dungeons, which unexpectedly raise, well over $500,000. I just love that stuff that pops up along the way to talk about it to you guys on a daily basis, weekly basis, and everything else in between. Please subscribe and hit the 7,000. I'm getting a subscription giveaway, and that's all I got. You guys are awesome for tuning in the first place and supporting me, so I love it. Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you around. Stay classy. Boom. Quick ending. There you go. That's all I got.